What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to day one of the turbo build. This is my 2007 Honda Civic LX model and we're putting a eBay turbo kit on it. Guys, this is my first ever turbo install of any kind, so stick with the journey and we'll see what happens. So let's get started. Alright guys, the first things we're going to do is remove the factory intake box. Then we're going to remove the bumper, and then we're going to move on to removing the whole exhaust to catalytic converter portion of the car right over here. So I'm going to put this on a time lapse, and that's how we're going to work. So I sprayed some penetrating oil right here on the O2 sensor just so we can loosen it a little bit easier. And that's going to be the next thing. We're going to try to take off this manifold. Couple bolts up here, couple bolts on the bottom, and we should be able to drop it out of the way. So here we go. Alright guys, a little update. So again, we got the whole intake piping off. We got the catalytic converter out. We actually took out a little bracket here also, because that's not going to clear our wastegate. And at this point, guys, you know, I'm ready kind of to mock up the turbo and see where I'm going to have to do my drain line into the oil pan, but there's not a lot of room here. So what I'm planning on doing is taking off this radiator core support, draining the radiator, taking out the radiator and the fans, right, because that's taking up a lot of space right here. Just lifting it all out. The condenser, obviously, we're gonna have to leave on because it's connected and we don't want to disconnect it so we lose Freon. But hopefully that's gonna give us, you know, like a good 3 inches worth of extra clearance, so we can take a look at that oil pan and see where we gotta tap it. All right, guys, I got the bar pretty much removed. I didn't remove the whole thing because the hood latch is still connected, so I'm just gonna put it there on the side. But as you can see, we got a lot more room to work on here now. So I'm gonna drain the coolant, take off this hose here, take off this hose right here. That way we can kind of pull up the whole radiator out, and again, a lot more room. At this point, I put the manifold on the turbo. There's no gaskets on here right now. I just want to mount it on the engine and just look where my oil drain needs to go, and then we'll see where we'll be tapping into the oil pan. All right, as you can see right over here, it just barely clears right now the oil pressure sensor, but it clears everything in the back. Right here we have room on the downpipe. Again, we'll test fit the downpipe here in a second, but initial impressions, it's good. Look at that. Excited. The turbo, the original clocking I did seems pretty good. I might have to clock it just a little bit more, maybe about 2-3 degrees, but yeah, so far so good. All right, progress. We got the downpipe on. There is literally no clearance. I mean, it fits, but it's like touching the AC Freon line here. I mean, it's just right. I mean, I wish there was more clearance, but I don't think it'll give us a big problem here. Again, we got this mocked up for the most part. Looks good, and I put on the secondary downpipe here as well. You can see I got that primary downpipe, and then I got that secondary downpipe. And this is what I was worried about. I was worried about these not being able to connect to my I guess your S pipe or whatever this is called to go to the exhaust, but for the most part it aligns pretty good. I mean, it definitely doesn't fit the holes perfectly, and there's a little bit of a gap on the bottom. Probably will need a donut gasket in there in order for this to work properly and not leak. That's what I'm guessing, but this is still I mean, this is great. I thought this was gonna be way off. This wasn't even gonna fit properly, but for the most part looks good. Again, wastegate clears now. Let's look at the drain line, see where we're gonna tap it in. So after mocking it up, I guess the best spot to weld this bung is still right over here, as high as you can. Probably right around this area right here, away from the exhaust. I was originally gonna put it somewhere here, but it's way too close to the exhaust. It'll burn the line most likely, so let's go over here and hope everything's good. This is the most common location everyone is tapping into, so we'll just do the same. So before we start drilling a bigger hole, I just want to drain all the oil out of the engine right now, because we're gonna flush it through the same. I got a clean pan here. We're gonna reuse it to flush the engine once we finish tapping it. Right now we got a little hole in there. We got a little tap, and hopefully this goes smooth. I'm most worried about tapping this oil pan, guys. Sheesh. Alright, I got my tap here. I don't want to tap it too far because then you're gonna lose how tight it gets. And let's put some grease on this thing. And honestly, here goes nothing. I'm using a 17 mil to pop it onto the tap, so then I can just spin it with the 17 so we can get some clear threads. And as you can see, what I did here in order to tap that hole, guys, I lifted my AC condenser here, and the drill, I was drilling straight through here to get that hole. Otherwise your drill, you don't have enough room to make it fit here. And you definitely want to drill a straight hole so everything works properly. Well, I guess that's that, guys. Doesn't look like there's a lot of threads here to even catch on to. Alright guys, well, I put oil in there. As you guys can see from a video, we still are above the oil level, which is good. And I'm just gonna start up the car right now, get some of that used oil circulating through there so I can circulate it through the engine. The oil filter can catch whatever it needs to catch, and then we'll let it run for about a minute here, just because nothing is connected as far as cooling. We won't run it too long and hope for the best, right guys? This is gonna be waking up the neighbors. Oh my God. Alright, real quick, you guys can see I did a custom Egr block off. Like initially I didn't think you would need a block off, and I think you can still run it without a block off because this Egr valve will still be closed and you will be fine. But I had some materials laying around, so initially what I did, I took the gasket from the Egr plate right there, traced it out, and essentially that's what I did. This material right here is my, so to say, gasket, and then I took some aluminum here and cut it off as well. And yeah, it's not perfect, it's not perfectly adjusted, but this will definitely do the job. Technically we got a gasket and then a nice plate holding it shut, so that's good. I've been waiting for my battery to charge on this GoPro because I tried to start up the car last time and the battery died. So I'm gonna restart it again with the open headers. let it run for like a minute. Last time with that hole, it was spitting out oil everywhere from that, so that crankcase pressure is real, and I'm trying to see if that's going to cause an issue, because if there's a lot of crankcase pressure pushing out, all that oil and pressure is going to the turbo, which might lead to, you know, leaky seals and whatnot because of the crankcase pressure. So that kind of sucks. I'm curious what's going to happen with that, but let me start it up for you guys one more time. If the coolant temps are not getting too hot, I'll let it idle for about, you know, like a minute and let the oil circulate, go through the filter so we can kind of catch all those shavings, and then I'll shut it right off. Looks good and tight. I thought it'd go in more, but it looks pretty solid there. Alright, I put a cap on this because we're going to pressure wash this whole radiator here since I spilled some oil earlier from there. So taking off the oil pressure sensor right now, guys. This is we're gonna tee off for the oil pressure for the turbo, and you can see they use some Teflon paste in there. Alright, I got my T-fitting installed. Now the question is, am I going to have my feed line point this way and go around the turbo to the feed? Or should I clock it going up through here into the turbo? So I'm going to put the turbo back on right now, test fit it, see which oil feed line routing would be the best. Well, we have two options, guys. We can route it right over here, looping around back here, right? And that's going to be probably the most efficient method because, one, it's kind of further away from the downpipe, the manifold here. and you can actually see both fittings, so if there's any leaks I can see it. The other way we can route it is around the manifold here in the back and just kind of have it sideways, right? And that looks more appealing because we have less holes chilling and it's not touching anything, but I feel like it's just coming in contact with too many parts, and then that fitting is really hidden and I can't see it because the wastegate actuator is blocking it. So I think I'm gonna stick with my first idea, which is gonna be here, something just like that. Yes, the line is a little bit too long for an application like this. This is a 24-inch. Maybe like a 12-inch would have been perfect for it, but yeah, just FYI guys, FYI, that's the setup. Alright guys, I got all the oil out. I'm gonna strain it through a paint strainer, very fine mesh as you can see, and we'll see if we catch anything, you know, any of those shavings that we just put into the engine by drilling and tapping it. We'll see if there's anything here. Alright guys, well here's the verdict. There's definitely some shavings in the oil drain pan here. You can see some things. Y'all see that. There's a big chunk over there. And you can see definitely there's a few pieces here that it picked up that we drained out. Look at that. So yeah, even though you try to use, you know, a tap and grease and whatnot, this is still coming out of the engine, and this engine I was running, so hopefully that's not gonna give us any issues, guys. Again, if you want to drop the oil pan, you definitely can. It's a lot of work. You have to remove the belt, you have to remove the alternator, and you have to remove the AC here so you can get those brackets off from the oil pan. This is just a simpler method for me, so that's the way we're going with it. And everything is mocked up, and we got the feed line going up right around here, and it's just the way it's gonna stay. So I'm switching it up a little bit. I'm usually a Pennzoil guy, but you know, things are tight. My brother did a lot of research on Quaker steak. It's a few bucks cheaper as well. So since we're just putting the oil in, maybe running it 500 to 1,000 miles and draining, and I'm still using a synthetic oil. We got a new filter going on. Again, this is just gonna be a quick drive with this oil here just to flush out more of the shavings, and then we'll change the oil again after about 500 miles. So here we go. Got my stainless steel braided drain hose. I already measured out how much I kind of need. I mocked it up earlier, so I'm gonna take my cutoff wheel and just cut it off right here. So the last hour or so I've been clocking the turbo to make sure the oil feed is at the 12 o'clock position, and then at the same time our compressor housing is clocked properly, and the wastegate is actually moving nice and smooth front to back, because you don't want a really big angle on the wastegate rod because you might have boost issues. So let's get the angle here. As you can see, guys, right in the middle, perfectly straight. That's what I'm talking about. That's gonna give you guys the best feed and drain possible. So I might have to shorten the line right now after clocking the turbo a little bit. I don't want it too long. I might start putting the radiator back in as well, just so then I can start running the intercooler piping and get that dialed in. This connection right here, right from here, this connection from here going down to the passenger side, that's going to be the hardest connection to make. We'll see how it goes. All right, it's been a amazingly long day, guys. Sunset already happening. Probably ate breakfast at 7 p.m. Didn't eat anything in the morning just to get this done because I was so excited, and for the most part everything is looking fantastic. Just dialing in the last few pieces here. We're starting to do the charge pipe. You know, I'm trying to route this system so everything works properly. I got a charge pipe here and a charge pipe there. I made one pipe, as you guys can see, and that pipe was not good because it was the cold side pipe was right next to the down pipe, and it wasn't smart. It's gonna create heat into the charge air temperatures. So I figured out a different way, and that one actually works because it's a lot further away from the down pipe with a connector there, and it tucks in to that 90 into the intercooler here. Now these couplers, they're really tight. Even though this is a 90, it's almost like crimped a little bit on the edge there, just because of how sharp this 90 has to be. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be restricting some flow, but that's the only way I can get this in. That's the only way I can get it in. And I'm gonna have to re-shorten the feed line a little bit. Now I put that oxygen sensor in there, the secondary oxygen sensor, and with that oxygen sensor there, my feed line does not want to go into my drain. So I wish that O2 bung was lower on that down pipe, not right on top. Either in the future we're gonna have to relocate it. Again, we have to do emissions in my state, so I'm not sure. We're gonna have to figure that out. On the next video we'll be probably adjusting that. And all in all, guys, I'm really happy today. Everything went pretty smooth. I was expecting delays because this package was actually supposed to come in on Friday, and today is, what is it today? I don't even know. Today's Tuesday, and it came in on Tuesday. So that's great. Two-step Calder spark plugs right here. This is what even Full Race recommends on their R18 build, and ultra copper gasket maker. So all those gaskets that we will be resealing, whether it's this gasket here, in between here, gasket here, we're gonna put the gasket maker on top of all those seals that come with it, just to make sure it's a nice tight seal. So we'll be doing all that on the next video, guys. Stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, drop a like, comment, and see you guys on the next video. Peace.
I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along and see it's true, but the world is pretty cold. You might need a sweater too. I'ma put a ride on ya. Kid from California, trying to make it in life. In school they never taught ya. Dreams